Thanks for clicking. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm a mortgage broker here in London, Ontario. Today I wanted to go over a poll that was released yesterday, conducted by Nanos Research, and it made front page news in the London Free Press, showing that nearly one-third of respondents in London were concerned about the affordability of housing in the Forest City. If we look a little deeper in the poll, we see that that's their number one concern, right behind homelessness and tied almost with job creation. Uh, as Londoners get more and more worried about the prices of houses in the Forest City here. As we've seen, and we've gone over this in a few different videos on this channel, prices have skyrocketed in London, well over $100,000 since this point in time last year, where the average house price has actually reached around 640,000. And for the first time this year, the average house price actually outstripped the affordability of the average household in London, Ontario here. So it's unsurprising that this poll shows nearly one-third of respondents being concerned about the housing affordability. So what I wanted to do in this video is just briefly go over the results of the poll and go over what Londoners hope to happen to fix the affordability of housing, and kind of assess whether or not those fixes would actually have a big impact on the affordability of real estate in London. When looking at the results of the poll, there's two main highlights that I wanted to point out or to go over. The first one being that nearly one-third of respondents argued that the city was very poor when it came to affordability, with nearly another one-third being sort of neutral. So we have at least one-third that finds the London's real estate to be widely unaffordable, and another third which isn't really happy about it. And that's just looking at the current affordability. The next part that I wanted to really highlight is prospects for the future. As we've talked about on this channel before, when looking at how people are going to act in the market, a big part of that is perception and where they see prices going when they decide whether or not to buy now or to buy in the future. When you look at this poll, 2/3 of the respondents expect that in the next 6 months that house prices are expected to go up even further. So when we're trying to think in the future whether or not we can expect prices to go down, we really need to look at what's the perception of the market. And the perception, at least from this poll, does seem to show that Londoners expect things not to get any better than they are now. So one-third think that things aren't that great to begin with, and 2/3 don't see the trends reversing at all. Given that Londoners buy London homes, their perceptions are really important to understand where the market's going to be in the future. Now, what do Londoners want to be done about the affordability problem in London? The results show, by and large, the Londoners are seeing this as a supply problem. So over 40% of respondents want to see an increase in affordable housing. So that really is a call for new construction and to increase the supply of houses throughout the city. Second, 20% of Londoners want to see the removal of land transfer tax for first-time homebuyers. So there's already a rebate for first-time homebuyers on their land transfer tax, but 20% of respondents think that removing that tax would help increase affordability in London. Another 15% want to see greater rebates for first-time homebuyers as a means to help affordability. And another 13% are echoing the government's sentiment, wanting to implement a non-residential buyer's tax or non-resident buyer tax. So that's where we tax purchases of real estate from people that are not from Canada, that aren't Canadian citizens. So now that we know what Londoners want to happen, I just want to briefly go over what the likelihood of these four changes in actually increasing the affordability in London. So just starting with the non-resident tax, Canada's already implementing some version of this. It will likely have more of an effect on areas like Toronto and Vancouver and some of the bigger cities where it's actually been implemented before. But we already are trying that, and that was actually announced in the last budget. So we'll see if that has any immediate effect in London. I don't expect it to, because London's housing prices are largely driven by one, our own residents, but also residents from Toronto, and we can't tax residents from Toronto that buy here because it's due to mobility rights in the charter and stuff like that. So taxing foreign purchasers, it could have an effect, but we haven't seen anything yet. And so I guess we'll see if something happens with that. So another 15%, as mentioned, wanted an increase to the first time home buyers rebate, which right now stands at about $750. I don't see that increase being able to do a whole lot to London's housing prices. We've gone up from $540,000 average purchase price a little more than a year ago, up to well over $630,000. So even if we doubled that first-time homebuyers rebate from $750 to $1,500, that's really not going to put a big dent in the affordability of housing in London. Thirdly, eliminating the land transfer tax. I don't think that is going to make a big difference for first-time home buyers in London. The reason being is that first-time home buyers already get a big rebate, up to almost the first $400,000 of the purchase of their home. When buyers are spending $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 over asking price just to get into the market, eliminating the land transfer tax is kind of one of the last part of their concern. They don't mind paying the extra $1,500, $2,000 if it gets them into their first home, when they've already been through the bidding war of the bidding wars in London. So it's unlikely that that's going to really increase affordability at all, because it doesn't really get factored into the debt ratios when you're qualifying for your mortgage. So it's not really going to help increase the maximum amount of mortgage that any Londoner can afford. So that probably won't bring down prices. Lastly, and this is what the majority, well, the most people wanted, over 40% in London, wanted an increase in affordable housing. This could put a real dent in the housing prices that we've seen going up and up and up in London. Our biggest problem is that supply is much lower than demand. We have demand from Toronto, and we have we have our own London residents trying to buy real estate, or first-time home buyers get into the market. So if we were to increase the supply, well, that should, even with the same amount of demand, that should help at least cool down or slow down the price growth that we've seen. A lot of people want to move into the real estate market to purchase because rents have gone so high. If we increase affordable housing, we'll have more supply there as well. So if we could increase supply both in the construction of single-family homes and condos for people to purchase, and increase affordable housing on the rental side, both would go a long way, I think, at least, to help cool down London's housing market and make real estate a little bit more affordable, both for first-time home buyers and for renters, and for really home buyers in general. I don't think that would crash the market, but it could definitely cool it down. So just to conclude, I think this poll shows that Londoners are getting more and more concerned about the price of real estate in London, with nearly 1/3 or over 1/3 saying that it's very poorly affordable, and that seems to be the trend, that people are getting more and more concerned. Usually, coming out of a pandemic, we would expect, well, not usually, we haven't had a pandemic, but you would think with so many job losses, that job loss would be much, much higher on the list of Londoners' concerns. But if we look at the chart, it's nearly 2/3 are all related to housing, with homeless being the biggest concern, and then housing affordability right behind jobs there by only a few points of a percentage. So clearly, the housing and the affordability of houses are almost always number one on Londoners' minds. And I think that's something that really needs to be addressed in the future by council and by the province. Because obviously people are getting more and more concerned about it. If you like this video, please do click like and subscribe, and you'll get updates as they come out. Thank you.